Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast with Janice R. Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janice will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as the angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janice R. Cohen.
Hey y'all, this is Janice Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist, here on the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. Each day, I pull cards for myself from a number of decks to understand the lay of the land for that day, like what I need to know about the day itself, life, particular circumstances. And if I'm not grounded and clear on my intention for the reading, then the cards will pretty much reflect my muddled focus, and they'll come up scattered and seemingly nonsensical. It's kind of like I have no idea what any of this means. So what's interesting is what's come up for me in the cards over the past 6 months is a call for me to resume my work with kids. And I didn't understand at all why I was being pulled back into that population so strongly. I mean, I always loved working with kids and adolescents because I get to kind of be one and play around with them and while we do our work, but I hadn't really given it much more thought than kind of like a passing thought, you know? And truth be told, I kept dismissing the nudges over the months because, again, I didn't really know in what capacity I was to resume work with children and adolescents. And it was so weird because it all of a sudden became crystal clear to me this morning and I have put some thoughts together. It is actually February 16th, so this is when we are approaching a full moon tonight. So as we entered the full moon in Leo, I wrote this episode ahead of time. I needed to write down some thoughts to make sure that I shared with you exactly what I needed to share. Right, so what can I say I was guided to? And I follow my guidance. So look, back to working with the kids and what all this means. So the aha moment came quickly, which is really, really cool. And it seems like the aha moments are coming more quickly and more quickly for me, which is fantastic. And as I reflect on my work, what my spirit guides connected me with was one of my most recent clients who happens to be an adolescent and who is an empath, and he's also a psychic. He didn't realize that, but through the first session, it was like I was picking all that up. And so finally, I was able to connect the dots, and it was a real relief. And I'm sure that I'll be developing a program to help children connect with and develop their gifts as well, and help the parents of these gifted kids. And it was so exciting for me. And I am sure to let y'all know when I put that program together, because I know there's so many parents out there with psychic and empathic kids, even kids who have mediumship abilities, and they need to know what they're dealing with and how to help their child navigate through the rough terrain that we call the world we live in. When I was young, and I go into more detail in the story in my upcoming book, which I hope to publish by the end of this year, if not earlier, I struggled unknowingly with being an empathic kid. And it would be four decades later that my psychic gifts would open up and truly change the course of my life. But the thing is, I struggled a lot in school. Look, and I have dyslexia, still have it, but it was hard for me to concentrate. I had comprehension issues. I was distracted a lot. I needed stimulation to calm me down, and always felt as if I didn't fit in. I felt like an outlier my entire life. Because no one back in the 70s knew really much about metaphysical kids and metaphysical concepts. My teachers sure as hell and other adults in my world definitely didn't know. And I never got the proper support that I needed to feel energetically protected in a world that really, for me, felt very prickly and hard and heavy. And the symptoms I described just a few minutes ago sound a lot like ADD, don't they? And let me tell you something. A truth that I learned many years ago is that gifted kids, you'll see them bouncing off the walls, they can't sit still, who are sensitive to light, sound, touch, fabrics, These kids are empaths. These kids are psychic. These kids are gifted. Now, I don't discount the efficacy of medications that address these symptoms. I know for sure our bodies really do need to get the help to kind of rev our engines down. They really can. They can help kids. But I guarantee you that most people don't make the connection between these types of kids and the fact that they are empathic and psychic. I would bet my career on it. So if your child or someone you know has a child that has some of these symptoms, it's a high likelihood that they are empathic, right? They're very sensitive to everything around them, the energies, that they're psychic and gifted, and they just haven't been identified as such. Chances are that if you were a kid that struggled with these same challenges, the ones that I described, you too were an empathic and psychic kid who just needed the right help and strategies to get through life. Being sensitive in this way is not easy. Yes, it's a gift. Seriously, if you learn how to harness them, amazing gifts. But trust me when I tell you that as I have aged, my sensitivities have become even more pronounced and my gifts even sharper. So I am much more sensitive, even more now than I was before. It's hard. And many times my energy gets zapped because I'm so affected by everything. Imagine what an empathic and psychic child experiences when they have no idea that they fall into this category of being empathic, psychic, and gifted. It's such a shame that they struggle. It was a shame that I struggled with no help. But today's episode is designed to help you understand if your child is an empath or a psychic. I just want you to keep your mind open because you just might find that you connect with many of these traits as well and have been one of the unidentified sensitives in your generation, and that the behaviors that your child is exhibiting isn't because they're weird or they have ADD. It's because they are an empath and a psychic. So empathic kids are kids who feel too much, but they don't know how to manage this sensory overload. All of their senses are heightened: smell, taste, touch, sight, hearing. And they often exhibit symptoms that a child with ADD or a sensory-specific kid has. Simply stated, they are overstimulated all of the time. I was like that. I still am. And I have a strong startle response, which is also a sign of a strong empath. Loud noises jar me, and it takes me a while to recover. Seriously, they jar me like nothing else. Silence hurts my physical body. It hurts me, right? So as young kids, sensitive kids will often have meltdowns, anxiety, and tantrums. They can take longer to calm down at night than children who don't have the sensitivities. And one thing that is important to know about empathic kids is that they absorb everything and deeply. They experience overwhelm often, and they need to learn how to not absorb the energy of the people around them, especially if the people around them experience emotional discomfort or cause emotional discomfort, because they're super sensitives. When they hurt, they really feel it. And when the opposite occurs, when these kids are happy, they really feel that deeply too. Those empathic kids, and I experienced this my entire childhood too, they have a hard time screening out light, noise, and energy of crowds. In fact, when I was a kid, and something that still holds true for me as an adult, is that I have to have noise in the background to regulate my energy. I always have music on or the TV playing to ground me, because if I didn't, it feels like literally the pressure from the silence is closing in on me, and I hurt. I physically hurt. I know that sounds really weird, but I would bet that some of you listeners out there, you have experienced the same thing too. Solitude and soft music sometimes. White noise helps empathic kids cope too. Okay? For me, it depends on the mood that I'm in, what kind of music helps me regulate my energy. So does any of this sound familiar to you or to somebody you know? Here are some other markers for the empathic child. We're going to talk about the empathic child, and then we're going to talk about the psychic child. So The empathic child, they need to have alone time rather than be amongst a group. They share intuitive comments with you about others and themselves. In other words, they tell you what they kind of pick up before you even know. They take it, they take on their friends' stress and they feel responsible for helping their friends navigate their friends' struggles. They take on other people's feelings. They prefer to have a few good friends and not a whole group of friends. And they don't feel like they fit in anywhere. Now, when we speak about psychic kids, there's one thing I want you to understand. They come into this world with these gifts because children are the closest to God because of their youth. And because of their youth, they have just left God to incarnate on this earth, right? So their connection to spirit is the strongest because they've just come from heaven. And because they come into this world as old souls, these psychic kids, they already have wisdom. And they have the gifts of mediumship and other psychic gifts as well. And they're really cool kids, but it's hard for them. Here are some vital characteristics of psychic children. They're also empathic. They feel things deeply, and they often take on the feelings of others. They sense the character of people, and they may shut down when they meet somebody new because they know who the person truly is. You may find them talking to themselves as if they're actually having a conversation with somebody who's not there. But by the way, there is somebody there. You just can't see it. They can. They see spirits of people who have passed and often pick up on the spirits of other people who have passed. They know things ahead of time. They have a strong sense of clairvoyance, clear seeing, clairaudience, clear hearing, claircognizance, clear knowing, clairsentience, clear feeling. The best thing you can do as a parent of an empathic or psychic kid is to never shut them down from expressing themselves as it relates to these gifts. Too many times, parents who either aren't familiar with these kinds of gifts or who fear them themselves and they themselves have been shut down. They often respond punishingly or dismissively to their kids, letting them know that they are foolish for sharing what they're sharing and that they don't believe them. And y'all, this is really sad. It's a very sad situation for sure. If a psychic child is experiencing this from their parents, they're going to do everything they can to shut their gifts down because they don't want their parents to be mad at them. They don't want their parents to be disappointed in them. And many are successful in doing that. But here's the truth. Gifts never go away. And most often, gifted kids keep their active gifts a secret and struggle in silence because they don't have the support system in place that can help them embrace and manage their gifts. That's just the truth. It happens a lot. Truth is that everyone is psychic. I believe it. I've been doing this for a long time. I know it. Even if you deny it, you are. You just don't know how you use your gifts. You have some heightened sense about you in some way that gives you a gut feeling about something or someone. Everybody has this. Psychic kids are old souls, and oftentimes when we encounter them, we just sense that they are far more mature than other kids. Have you met these kind of kids? It's kind of like, gosh, they're old souls. It just feels like they're an older human being in a kid's body, right? They're far more mature than other kids, and they just seem to have a calm and a knowingness about them that you just can't explain, period. And especially if you're a parent that you don't realize that your kid's a psychic, you're going to go, gosh, they just kind of seem to have this wisdom without making the connections, right? So it's a challenge to be a child with psychic gifts, and it can be very scary too. And imagine as an adult, you saw a spirit of a dead person, you'd freak out. Or if you saw a book fly off the shelf, or heard footsteps in the stairs in the hallway, right? When everybody was asleep, or you entered somewhere that felt automatically bad and scary, and you have no frame of reference for what all of this means and what the hell to do with it all. As an adult, you could somehow put that somewhere, but as a kid, you don't know what to do with that. You're not armed with the ability to figure that out. And it's overwhelming. And oftentimes it makes psychic kids just want to withdraw. And they can become depressed and anxious and socially isolated and feel scared and confused. It's certainly not an easy life to live as a psychic kid. And it's not always easy, in all honesty, to live as a psychic adult. But if you grow up with supportive parents, it really makes the path easier to travel. So if you have a psychic kid and know of somebody that does, here are some things that you can do to support them. I really want to share these with you. And of course, because metaphysical concepts are really now widely talked about, there are dozens of gifted adult psychics who work with gifted kids and can help you with yours. Okay? I'd be happy to if you feel like you trust me. So 1, you need to listen to them. Please don't shut them down because you're uncomfortable. That's your shit, not theirs. Or that you don't know what to do with the information. Be their advocate. Look for mentors who can help the whole family address the gifts and how to cope with them. Next, normalize the experience. If you've ever made your child feel bad or unusual for struggling with something, then you're making a big mistake. Please let them know that they aren't crazy or stupid or weird for sharing this information that may or may not make sense with you or to you. Please don't. And let them know that there are tons of kids out there like them. Okay? Next, ask them what they feel would help them. And if they don't know, find somebody who can help them figure it out. Next, help them learn how to energetically ground and protect themselves. I teach this a lot to my clients, and especially the gifted kids I work with. If you don't know how to do that, find somebody who does, because helping them surround themselves with like a golden white ball of light by just imagining themselves inside that will offer automatic energetic protection. Next, have them write down their insights, the things that they download, the messages they receive. This is going to build up their psychic currency and psychic confidence when it comes to their channeling. It's going to make that muscle stronger. And you can help them advance their skills by playing guessing games with them, right? So you could pull a card that has the colors on the back, and you say, okay, what color is this, right? So just enjoy this part of your child so they can too. I hope today has been helpful. I hope that you've been able to see certain things in yourself, or maybe if you're a parent of a kid who has gifts, that you can now shift how you parent them, and you could see what they're going through. And first and foremost, for sure, get somebody who can help them. Just don't go to a regular doctor. Go to a psychic. Call somebody who you know who is gifted and who can do an assessment with your child so that you can know what you're dealing with, because there are a lot of people out there that can help your sweet kids. I hope this has been helpful. And as always, look, I wish you a blessed day, a wonderful week, and as always, live psychically and intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend. And be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.